Hi guys, Bill the Appraiser here with a new video on the YouTube channel all about appraisals. And you're going to find out early on that, my videos are going to be kind of on the rough side, that I really just turn it on and talk for 10 or 15 minutes, then cut it off and upload it. I don't really edit a whole lot, maybe a little bit off the beginning and the end, just to clean it up a little. But other than that, I'm really just trying to get information out. Like I've probably said in a couple of previous videos that, I've been doing this a long time and it still kind of amazes me, the questions I get and the things that people don't know and people need answers to. And then I'm just trying to help with that. So the whole idea of this channel is that it's for agents, potentially real estate agents, real estate brokers, apprentice appraisers. I wouldn't expect that other appraisers really need to watch it too much, but you never know. And something I've had come up on a couple of reports lately, a couple of inspections I thought might be worth talking about is square footage, and what do you get to count as square footage and what do you not get to count as square footage. And let me just go ahead and say that I'm sure this will open up a whole can of worms, and that's fine. There's probably 10 videos that could be made about this topic, but I just want to go ahead and get the ball rolling, and then as people leave comments, I can address other issues on and along. One of the areas that comes up about what can be counted, what can't. Generally speaking, it's whatever is contiguous, the parts of the home that are touching, that are all serviced by the central heating and cooling system. So as a general rule, everything on the main floor gets included. It's possible there can be something there that wouldn't be included, but generally speaking, you walk into the home, you've got the entryway and you've got the foyer and you've got the living room and the den and the bedrooms and the kitchen and the living room and everything else and all the bathrooms and whatnot, and all that, normally would be counted as heated square footage. Sometimes it starts getting a little bit iffy, if you go upstairs, depending on what's going on up there, and then downstairs, what's going on down there. Case in point, I had one the other day. I go to the house, fine, on the first floor, go upstairs, and the second floor is one not serviced by the central heating and cooling system. So as a general rule, the appraiser probably would not count that. There's probably different ways around that. Maybe they could count it and provide what is called a cost to cure. What would it cost to fix that to make it serviced by the central? Or maybe if the appraiser was thinking about, potentially they could add what's called a mini split to the second floor. That was the issue with this house, is that it did have a mini split, but the mini split was non-functional. So had the mini split been functional, I would have probably included that square footage in the home, made a note to the bank with a picture of the mini split saying this is how I've done it. If you want me to do it differently, I can. But so because of that, I couldn't give them credit for that heated square footage on the second floor because it wasn't heated and cool square footage. It was just finished. Basement area. Here's a little rule for you. If you're trying to figure out if a particular part of a home is basement or not, the rule goes, if you can lay a laser on the floor in that area and you hit that laser button and point it in all four of your directions so that it would go out all four of those walls on the lower level, if upon exiting any one of those walls that laser would touch dirt, then you are in a basement. And so, that's the rule, and that's not Bill's rule. That's fairly well industry-wide as far as I'm concerned. And so, I had a homeowner asking me about that because in her mind, it was only the areas that were actually touching dirt that might be considered basement. So in her mind, if you had what was called, a lot of people refer to as a daylight basement, where the back wall is completely above grade, and maybe even the two side walls are just about completely above grade, and it's only that back part, sort of the street wall, if you will, then she, in her mind, everything that wasn't touching the street wall could be included as above grade, and it's not that way. It's the whole area. And so going back to the laser example I just gave you, then if that's the case and you have a basement, then everything is a basement. There's no picking and choosing this, that, the other. Also interesting note, in one I had like that recently, had a basement. There was a room they were using down there as sleeping quarters, which is fine, but the appraiser can't call it a basement, can't call it a bedroom, because there's no egress. For something to be considered a bedroom, it has to have what we call egress, basically meaning a window so that the person in there could get out if there was a fire or something like that. Now, another whole can of worms that was opened up a few years ago was called ANSI, A-N-S-I. Now, actually, the standard has been out there for years and years, and most appraisers have already been using that to measure by. But Fannie and Freddie, the GSEs, as they call them, the government-sponsored entities, made that mandatory a couple of years ago, and so now appraisers have to abide by that standard. And basically, one of the things about ANSI is it says the majority of the area has to be 7 feet or above. And so in some instances, you have a second floor where it was kind of an afterthought. They decide, oh, we'll go in and we'll cannibalize some space from the attic and we'll turn that into living space, which is all well and good, especially if you consider maybe it's going to be just an office or a kids' play area, or even sleeping quarters, even a bedroom. But in order to do that, you're in a bed and of course you're laying down for the most part, so it wouldn't really matter that you didn't have 7 feet clearance. But because of the pitch of the roof, a lot of times some of those areas don't have the clearance they need to be able to be counted as heated square footage, even if they are heated and cooled. So in theory, the appraiser could give credit for it in the report, they just would not be able to include that. I had that pop up a week or so back, where you see this a lot in older homes where maybe something was a porch and they've gone in and enclosed it and finished it off and everything else, and then the appraiser hits it with their tape or hits it with their laser, and next thing you know, you're only at 6'5" or 6'6" or 6'7", or and then of course sometimes it's right on it. It's 6'9", it's 6'8", it's 6 whatever. So, but if that comes up, then the appraiser, it's not really even to the appraiser's discretion. And I think most appraisers probably look at it and say, I don't want to give credit now, and then the next appraiser not give credit for it. So the appraiser is probably better off not giving credit as heated square footage and counting it some other way in the report. So again, that's a topic we could talk about forever. We'll talk about it in multiple other videos on down the road. Just want to go ahead and get this one out there. This will actually be the first full-length video. The other two things I posted are what they call shorts, which means under 3 minutes. And this one I'm going to try to get uploaded, and then we'll move on. And my goal is to try to do at least 1 or 2 of these every week, if not more, between now and the end of the year. Try to have a couple of these under my belt going into 2026, and then at least do 1 or 2 a week during the whole year in 2026. Hit that like button if you would. Please subscribe. Leave me some comments. Let me know topics you'd like to see discussed, and I'll try to hit them when I can. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next video.